Hi, thank you so much for coming and sharing your stories and your experiences with our students. HR students love to hear real world experiences and real world journeys. So to start out, can you tell the students, will introduce yourself and kind of give them an idea of what your journey was in HR, how you got there, what choices you made so that maybe they can have some inspiration from your story.
Oh, absolutely. Well, hello, everyone. My name is Angelique Hamilton, and of course, I'm an HR practitioner. I currently serve as a Chief People Officer for a mental health organization, as well as a HR consultant of my own firm. My journey was a little different than most in terms of joining in HR. I am actually a first time, what you can consider a first generation graduate, not only in my household, but also in my neighborhood. So I was actually aspiring to be a broadcaster and journalist in college. I was unfortunate to secure an internship, and the first job that came available that was helping me to pay towards books was actually in HR. I didn't know anything about HR, didn't know what it was about. And my first stab at it was actually serving in one of the leading insurance companies, which most of you may know, Prudential Insurance. And I served as an intern, basically supporting recruiting. And at that time, it was the height of recruiting for them. And so basically, I made copies all day. So that was my first journey in terms of HR. And so from there, I actually transitioned to an HR assistant position in another organization. And I pretty much held every HR job probably known to man, from HR analyst, assistant specialist, manager, director, and now as a senior leader. But it does take a lot of work, effort, and also just dedication to really trying to drive and change not only the company, but also the world of work.
So the role that you're in now, as a chief people officer, how did you end up in that position? Maybe what was your journey, or how long did it take you to get there from graduating?
Well, I will tell you probably about over 20 years. I've been really dedicated to really trying to hone my skill, gaining the knowledge that I needed in order to really be known as an expert in this field. I actually have a prior certification as a certified HR professional. My graduate education, my master's education is in business. So that actually helps to support the business aspect of human resources, in addition to planning strategy, as well as designing people systems. I'm really responsible for executing and developing key performance indicators for the organization as it relates to human capital. So a lot of that came from my HR analytics experience as an HR analyst, one of my earlier roles in HR, and also the experience that I had as a benefits specialist, the experience that I've had as an assistant HR manager. All of those roles have really combined with me and combined into the work that I'm currently doing now as a senior leader. So I think every job and every facet of training that I have had has really helped to support my current work and the work that I intend to do for my organization.
Okay, so now when we initially got connected, you said you had a lot of experience with recruiting turnover and retention programs. Can you share some of that?
Absolutely. So in HR, as you all may know, HR is steadily changing. We're in a very challenging time, so to speak, in terms of retention. And talent is very fierce. It is a highly competitive market, and you have to be very innovative and creative in order to retain your staff, especially staff that are highly talented and they have all those opportunities out there. So some of the things that I've always had to work on is actually crafting retention programs such as spot bonuses, spot incentives, different attractions to new hires So attracting that talent to the organization, but once you get the talent into the organization, how do you keep them? So really developing engagement strategies, looking at some of the ways that employees are not only satisfied in their role, but what are some of the things that motivates your employees to really want to work for the company? So trying to develop those incentive programs, whether it be a one-time program within the department, again, if it's some type of incentive such as a bonus, and sometimes it can even be an attendance incentive. So a day off here or there for an employee. So really trying to be very creative and asking your employees on some of the things that they're interested in. And also looking towards your employees on what is keeping them there. So some of the things that I've done in terms of strategy is conducting state interviews, briefly speaking with current employees, and just asking them those questions on why they're interested in remaining with their organization.
So those stay interviews, are those individual interviews or are those focus groups or are they by job group? Can you
So
tell us
it's definitely a combination of both. I actually schedule individual sessions with individuals that have actually achieved a milestone anniversary, such as a first year or fifth year anniversary. And so you want to really seek from those individuals, like, why are they still there? You know, what has given them the desire to remain with the organization? In addition to those individual conversations, I actually do have focus group conversations with segmented groups or departments or functions. And in those small settings, I actually pose the exact same questions that I ask in those individual settings to the group of individuals or group of employees. And it's really to elicit a response from those employees to really gauge from them, you know, how are they being best suited in their current position? What are the tools and resources we can provide to them as an employer to keep them satisfied? And what are some of the things that we can do to fully develop that employee so they can actually work at the best of their capabilities?
Okay, so what about turnover? Do you track turnover? How do you track it? What types of turnover do you track? And maybe what do you do with the information that you get?
Absolutely. So there is an actual dashboard that we have monthly. And even in my prior roles, I've always developed metrics. One of the key focuses on retention is looking at involuntary and also voluntary turnover. Both of those measurements actually tell a story and they paint a story to the organization. And involuntary turnover, if you're looking at it in terms of individuals, if they have had performance issues, if it's a specific group or a specific department, is there an issue with training? There could be an issue there that you're losing so many individuals due to performance management as a lack of training or a lack of really trying to understand the best practices of that department. Also, for voluntary, we tend to look at some of the key reasons that employees are leaving. Are they leaving for compensation reasons? Are they leaving for a competitor? And if they're leaving for a competitor, why are they leaving for that competitor? If we have individuals that are relocating, did we have an opportunity to offer them a very similar role in that area? So really, those measurements do tell a story for us. They narrate on what we're trying to distinguish in terms of retention and what we can do in order to curb that turnover.
So, do you describe or define maybe what is the right talent? There seems to be some controversy going on in media right now. You know, the way I've always looked at it and the way I teach it is the right talent is based on a job analysis. It's based on the culture of the organization. It's not based on protected classes. It's not gender. It's not age. It's not race. You know, but there is a lot of controversy going on. Can you speak to that at all?
Yeah, so I think it's a blend of everything. The right talent is the right fit or the perfect match. And then there's some debate about whether or not there's a perfect match in terms of culture, because the whole a business of human resources is having a value added for that individual. So it's not so much as a protected class, but what are we doing in terms of inclusion efforts to ensuring that we have the makeup of the communities that we're serving. So we look for those individuals that not only have the capability and the qualifications, but what value are they bringing to our organization so that we can support the communities that we're serving. So is this individual, for my organization, we are comprised of actual healthcare professionals. So we're looking for individuals that can serve those areas that do not have really access to care. And what has that experience been for that individual that they can bring to our company as an employer to broaden not only that network, but also support that population of clients. So it's a whole gamut in terms of the right talent, because it's so competitive right now. Really, the whole attraction key is the candidate. The candidate now is making the decision if we are a right fit. So it's a two-way street. Not only are we interviewing the candidate is interviewing us to determine whether or not this actually fits into their overall goals, and also if it's a perfect match to their personal vision and mission.
So, when we talk about competition for talent, you said stiff competition, lots of competition, the talent is driving the bus now. Can you talk a little bit about how competition for talent impacts the retention programs and the turnover rate?
Absolutely. So I can tell you right now, we're recruiting for a healthcare nurse practitioner for this one market. And for this one market, one of our employees had remarked that they had been contacted by a headhunter, multiple headhunters. So employees are not even having to make any outreach. Outreach is being made to the employee. That's how competitive it is. So it's our role and it's our responsibility to ensure that that employee is not only satisfied in their role, but we're also offering a very comparable total rewards program that is very complementary to what's being offered by the competitor. So we're constantly reviewing what our competition is actually offering, what they're providing that we're not providing, and what are some of the things that we can do to really make the employee life experience one that's best for the employee and that it's a great place to work. That's our overall goal here in people operations, is ensuring we have a great place to work.
Have you heard the term boomerang employee?
Yes.
Yeah, we have a program for boomerangs.
Yes, so we actually encourage employees to return. We actually have an employee in our HR department who is a boomerang employee who left us at the beginning of the year, felt that the grass was greener on the other side, and found out after 90 days that it was not. So we actually do welcome our employees. Once an employee here, we feel once you've been an employee here at our company, that you're always welcome to return. We welcome them with open arms. We have never said no to any employee who left and returned. It's really up to the employee to decide whether or not that opportunity that they sought was a fit for them. So we encourage it. We actually make outreach to employees that have left. And we also make sure to keep the door open. So when we're conducting that exit interview, if anything changes, to definitely let us know, notify us, keep us alert and keep us in mind. And we have had a great response from that program.
That's great. It also reduces the hiring cost if you can get them back really quick.
Yes, because we're losing experienced individuals and it's hard. The cost of retention, that's a huge cost for us, to lose someone who has had 10 plus years of experience to go out the door. So to have that person to return is a great benefit to us as a company.
You mentioned the 90 days, and that's like a key time frame. That first 90 days, they either go, oh, I just love this organization and I want to be here forever, or wow, I had this other offer, maybe I should go check it out. This isn't what I thought it was. What do you do for that first 90 days as part of your retention program to try and keep the employees?
One of the things we believe in is communication. And I am strongly a firm believer in communication. So first week, checking in with the employee to ensuring that everything is going well. Following up a week later, there's a check-in at 30 days, 45, 60 days, and even at the 90th day, just to continuously check in to ensuring that this employee has gotten a great start. If there's some issues or if there's some concerns that has transpired during that 90-day period, it's our responsibility as an employer to ensure that we correct and adjust it to provide the employee with the best experience, because the first 90 days is the most crucial. And typically, usually within the first week, an employee will determine whether or not that's a perfect fit. Yeah.
So what do you think is the most creative thing you've ever done to reduce turnover, like in your retention program?
Um, well, I think the most creative thing that we did was the attendance bonanza, where we were actually raffling off a number of days, and the maximum number of days was about 2 weeks. It wasn't here at this organization, but a prior organization. And we pretty much had almost like a raffle of a 2 week period. And so it was surprising how many employees were interested in that, but that was an attachment for the attendance for current employees. And new hires, when they joined the company, they actually got entered into the raffle also for a day off. So it was actually a great retention program for us. We were able to keep employees. They actually liked it. And we were able to model that to actually increase our PTO program and actually expand the total reward. So as a result of that program, we were able to modify the full benefits program to complement what we were offering as a part of that promotion.
That's cool. So now you mentioned surveys, and you mentioned tracking turnover. And of course, most of our students don't have any experience in HR. A lot of this can be done with an HRIS. Do you use the HRIS system to do this? And if you, obviously you do, can you tell us a little bit about what an HRIS system is, maybe which one you use and how you use it to help with turnover and retention?
Absolutely. So the human resources information system that I use is actually a ADP platform. So it is comprised of not only the actual people side of it, which houses all of our people information. There is an analytics side that actually has reports already prepared. So all you have to do really is to click the actual information that you need, whether or not it's for a department or for a function, and click run. But basically, most of the reports that I run is with our total hires. I'm actually providing that information to our executive leadership, looking at our total turnover or total terms, also calculating any type of turnover we've had within the department, as well as promotions. It's really important to us to see how many employees have advanced. So what has been that promotional percentage within the quarter, as well as within the year. So responsible for running those reports. That information is not only provided to our executive leadership, but it's really important that we share it with those direct managers so they're aware of what's happening within their departments, as well as what's happening with their employees.
I know that you said you're in a very competitive industry for talent, but do you have an ideal percentage of, we would like to retain this percentage and maybe bring in this percentage of new employees? So do you have an ideal range?
Yeah, so our goal is to retain at least 82% of our workforce, which we have been pretty good at doing that. We traditionally try to look inward before we actually post any external postings. If we're not able to actually promote someone through succession planning or our internal posting process, then we will actually look outward for any type of candidates. But mainly, we're really trying to focus on retaining that 82%. And the bulk of that other percentage is looking to creating a talent pool of individuals that we can actually source from for future vacancies or for current openings that we have with the company.
So as I mentioned, the students don't have any background in HR. Can you explain how a decision about 82% might come about, how it might be communicated to leadership and as far as rationale goes?
Yeah, so we actually have what we consider market leadership meetings where we actually meet with each individual leader or manager to really review the numbers. I think it's really important that all leaders understand their current headcount and where they are with their employees. And so that they have an understanding on why we need to retain that level of employee and what they can do on the groundwork in order to help us do that. So we work with each manager, we review those numbers monthly. They're able to ask questions because in our meetings, no question is a question that will not go unanswered. So we will actually respond to any question about staffing because again, the managers are not HR experts, but they do look to HR for some guidance and for some support to really understand the data that's provided to them. So we actually do review their current headcount, any type of attrition, turnover that we've experienced with that department, and what we have done over the last 6 months or year to support that department. And that conversation is held directly with every supervisor and manager so they fully understand how they can support turnover and retention and how they can actually add value to really retaining their team members.
So this might not apply to you, but maybe in your past, maybe you've had this experience. Have you ever faced a situation where you had to lay off workers and or lay off and try to retain them to bring them back?
It is unfortunate, and I will share with each of you out there, you will have to go through a layoff. And I will tell anyone it's the most difficult decision that a company has to make. And it's also the most difficult experience that you will encounter as an HR professional. It is one I will tell you that it's not only challenging, but it can be stressful at times as well because you're dealing, as you know, we're dealing with people. So as a result of that, I've had to do very large layoffs where you have the individual meetings with the employees that are impacted to not only explain the process of the layoff, what resources are available to them to help guide them through this process, and then what are some of the things that are being provided to actually help them as they remain on. Most times we offer a retention bonus. That is a discretionary amount that's set aside for those individuals that remain through the actual layoff time or period. And so it can be difficult, even though the individual is provided with an incentive. They know at the end of that period, that position will no longer exist. So what we have done in past experiences that I've had is to look for other opportunities within the company to have that employee actually transfer to or actually apply to so that they're not lost or they're not losing in actual position or loss of income. So it's always been important to me to coach and counsel employees, help them with their resume, help them secure employment. Because it's difficult. It's difficult when you're experiencing a layoff. It's difficult because it's not only impacting that employee, it's impacting their family and everyone that surrounds them. So for me as an HR professional, I have just been really committed to ensuring that the layoff process is not so mechanical and that you consider the employee as you're going through it.
Yeah, I think the layoff is definitely one of the most difficult parts. And there's a lot of legal ramifications to it too. I recall when I was in Europe, there was a university, they were closing down an entire line of faculty positions. And they redesigned the jobs and then they reposted them. And then they reposted them in a way that said you had to have a letter of recommendation from your dissertation chair. So when you got your PhD, your dissertation chair would be the one who gave you the recommendation. Well, anybody over a certain age, their dissertation chair was no longer alive. And so that excluded them from the new job group. And of course, the individuals who were also being laid off were almost all over 40. And so it was the potential for a class action suit. And they did quickly decide to redo the job requirements for the new positions. And it was definitely, there's a lot you have to learn, to be in HR. And, all the different things that you've talked about are very skill laden. Maybe can you tell students what type of skill development you think they need, or which skills are really critical? You can't go without developing this skill and be successful.
The two skills that I would tell anyone is actually really understanding employment law because I deal with the states of California, and you definitely have to really understand employment law. It changes pretty much every day. It seems to. Also, I will tell you analytics. As you were mentioning that example, when we actually conduct layoffs, we have to conduct an adverse impact analysis. And a part of that analysis is to ensure that there is no adverse impact to a protected group or classification. So really understanding HR analytics and data. Now I'm seeing that more companies are asking for data from HR. So that's one of the areas I would definitely say, for your skills, for your hard skills to really build. Communication. Before, HR did not have a table. We didn't have a seat at the table when I first started in HR. Basically, HR was that et cetera department. We were always seen as a cost center, and that was it. But that has evolved. So HR is looked for as that strategic partner. So it's really important that you really build your communication skills, because you would be working with direct leaders, senior executives, board of directors. They ask for information from every level. So that's one of the areas I would definitely, request that you really build those skills in. And most importantly, dealing with conflict resolution. A key piece of HR is dealing with employee relations, regardless of the department, whether it's in benefits, compensation. You will need to have some skill level in dealing with conflict resolution and conflict management.
It's funny, as you were saying the seat at the table, it kind of dated both of us. I think, I talk about it, I'm at Wilco HR, still part of the SHRM groups and all that. And I'll say the seat at the table, or the big, I think it was no, it wasn't Forbes. It was Why We Hate HR.
Oh yeah, that article, I
Fast
remember
Company.
that. Yes, that stood with me.
Yeah, and people are like, what? That, I think that was the pivotal turning point for HR. We were all admins until that point, and then it was like, ding, ding, ding. In order to get that seat at the table, you really needed to have that financial understanding. You had to talk across the organization. You couldn't just be in your silo, in your little box, and just do HR. Yeah, and you had to be able to talk in ways that wasn't just HR. Yeah,
Right.
It's seat at the table.
It's changed. It's definitely changed. I would tell you, it has definitely changed, because again, we didn't have a seat at the table, and now we're looked to like, okay, people operations, human resources, what do you have for us? What can you share with us? Especially if it's a change or a transition within the company. HR is sought after very first. We're the first group that's reached out to for information. So that is definitely a change in the organization.
I think back then, HR was, the reason why they said we hate HR is because they always said no. And because, HR as a profession is grounded in legal compliance. That you just have to know it. You can't be in HR and not know legal compliance. But back then, that's all they knew, admin and legal compliance. So they were always saying, no, no, no. Now you have to know risk management, you have to know the financials, and you're expected to contribute so far beyond legal compliance that, it's a completely different world for HR now.
Absolutely. It has definitely, like I said, it's definitely changed, and I embrace it. I think this is a great time for any HR professional that is actually taking a deep dive in the field There's so many opportunities. There's so many areas of HR. When I first entered HR, it was just personnel at the time, and you just did HR stuff. But now there's so many different functions in HR, whether it's talent development, learning and development, compensation management, total rewards. There are so many different departments and facets that anyone could go into and specialize in.
So to wrap this up, do you have any parting thoughts or suggestions or anything you want to say to students as we wrap this up?
Yeah, so my parting thoughts to any student, I've always heard this, that it's hard to get in HR. It's difficult to get in there. The first thing I would do is to look for those entry level opportunities just to get your foot in the door. And once you get into a human resources department, is to definitely pair up with an individual so you can get that mentorship and really learn the whole grounding and the foundation of HR. I think that's really important, just to get as much knowledge as you can, so that you too can advance and move within human resources. So just don't give up.
Okay, well, thank you so much. I really appreciate you bringing your real world stories and your experiences to our students. I know that they will really appreciate them. I'm going to pause real quick.